Hello, this is Nitin Dahad with EE Times. I'm here in Oman and I'm talking to Naveed Sherwani, who's the CEO of the National Semiconductor Hub in the KSA, that's the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Naveed, hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you so much.
Okay, well, we're here at the International Semiconductor Executive Summit here in Oman, but I want to take us back to the beginning of this year. We spoke about the initiative you've got in Saudi Arabia, and then we'll talk a little bit about the region and some of the initiatives that are happening to enhance collaboration to build the ecosystem here in the region. So let's go back to January, and I did write a piece, and thank you for doing that interview that time. But let's now fast forward to end of year. Give us a little bit of a progress report. I know the conference today you presented and you talked about investments and some of the successes, especially companies like Epic Semiconductor with $100 million revenue. Just give us a little bit of an overview of the report card from 12 months.
Sure. So the program in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was started in June of 2024, right? So when we talked last time, at that time only 6 months have passed, and we had just looked at our first cohort, and at that time we had approximately 65 companies applied for, and we could really take only 5 companies. That's the amount of funding we had for the incentive plan. We ended up actually taking 15 companies because there were so many high quality companies, thereby creating a problem for me is how do I fund them, because if your funding was only for 5 and then you're 15, but we were able to find some way to do that. In addition to that, we were able to also start 5 Saudi companies. So the 15 companies came from outside, mostly from US, 1 from South Korea, 1 from China, I think. But then we were able to start 5, which is I'm very excited about. This is the Saudi initiative. These are the companies that either entrepreneurs came from Silicon Valley but joined up with somebody in Saudi Arabia. So total companies that are in the mix now is about 20 companies, right? For these companies, what we have been able to do since January is that we have an incentive program, and what we do is that we give them $2 million for coming over and starting up their operations there. So that has been given to 10 companies.
This is non-dilutive, it's a
grant.
Grant. Okay.
Right. The second program that we have is we give them free rent. We have been given to all the companies there. Then we finished our first training program. So 50 people graduated. Now those people are being hired with these companies. That training program is, again, we don't charge anything to the companies.
And just for that, that's the benefit of that is you're feeding them back into the ecosystem locally.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then we also help our companies that have come to get them additional funding. So it comes in 3 categories. One category is with Ministry of Industry and Minerals. We have a program which gives you a grant of $10 to $12 million if you have a innovative R&D program, or an innovative manufacturing, meaning you're going to manufacture or assemble something which has never been done in the kingdom before.
So it's kind of like a US SBIR.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a grant. You get it. Let's say nobody has built a camera before in Kingdom, and you're setting up a line to, so we'll give you that grant. The second thing is you can get loans if you're setting up something like that. And the third thing, of course, is there can be equity injection from the state. The other possibility is that we worked with a group of 6-7 VCs, and we have been able to do now funding in 4 of the 10. So everybody gets some funding just as a welcome package. They get free rent, they get help with the training, but then in other cases we have been able to get some funding for them as well.
Okay.
But others are in the funding group as well. So I think that's what the last thing that I think I would tell you that has happened in the last, when I talked to you last, that last time I told you that we are in the process of setting up a fund, and now the fund is set up.
Okay.
It is called Saudi Fabulous Semiconductor Fund. Ayman Sajini is the general partner, very, very senior banker, has been in this business for 40 years. I'm another general partner of that fund, and now we are in, the fund is registered, and now we are in the fundraising process, and then we want to write the first checks maybe January, February timeframe.
Now tell me, there are some I think, and I use Epic Semi as an example because they've already raised money or they're doing revenue. Just tell us a little bit about their role or companies like that as well.
So I think the opportunity that I tell people that why I think there is a gold rush going on in Saudi Arabia is that they are hungry for everything, right? So if 40 companies are building data centers, that is what it is. Now, even if you can just supply them cabinets, you will do very well because it's not 1, 2, and 10, but they are not built here, so they'll probably be outsourced to some other country, if you know that. There are people who want to build cables. There are SSDs, racks, cables for connecting. So Epic Semi is a company which basically went to all these data center companies. Says data center companies who got any funding from the government has another problem called localization. Meaning, when they got the funding, they promised that every year they'll increase some local content. Usually, what people do in the first year, they just put plastics and packaging, and it's an easy thing to do. What are you going to do the next year? What are you going to do the year after that? So then they ask the question is that, okay, can you supply us some simple chips? And that's what Epic is doing, and I welcome other people to do that, is that find out chips that you could either acquire the IP or develop the IP. These could be simple chips, and slowly they'll become more and more complex. So Epic is a company which does that, and we are in our second year. And I think they reported that they are doing, projecting to doing, the year is just ending, they think they will do about 110 million revenue in the second year. And so that's kind of because
And that's
of the
shipping into GCC?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
Yes, and just because of so many things are needed.
So that's what you're trying to say, and you're proving there is that there is a market here.
There's a huge market here.
Okay.
Lenovo has just set up operations, and they are going to build 2.5 million laptops and 250,000 servers.
Okay.
Imagine what goes into a laptop. Problem Lenovo is going to have local content. So Lenovo is looking out for companies that can say, okay, I can make this chip for you. As long as the chip says made in Saudi, Lenovo can do a tick mark, right? So Lenovo is going to be buying hundreds of millions, eventually billions of dollars of chip. The qualification is it has to be made in Saudi, which means enough work has been done on the chip or packaging or test or verification to qualify whatever it takes to be called made in Saudi.
Interesting. So that connects very well into, I think, I'm not sure if it was the summer or it was maybe early in the spring when you had the US president come here with his whole entourage, the region, and announce huge investments from NVIDIA, AMD, Qualcomm into these big AI, you have Humane and all these other different projects. Is that going to feed more of that ecosystem down the line? And we're here in Oman at this conference and it's the theme is pathways to collaboration for growth here in this region. How do you see all of this connecting? As they say in one of my favorite movies, connect the dots.
So I think when President Trump came, if you look at that particular visit, it was more where Saudi companies were saying, we are going to buy NVIDIA chips, AMD chips for our data center. And that visit was saying, yes, we want to sell you these chips, we want to have partnership with you, and we want to help you set up all the data centers so that you become enabled for the AI economy. So we were mostly buying.
Yes.
But what happens is that the company that is buying, Humane or somebody else who's getting government, in all this funding also promises the government, yes, I'm buying, but I'm going to have local content. Okay, so then they go talk to NVIDIA. What are you going to make here? NVIDIA is going to say, well, maybe I can have a design center. AMD says, maybe I can have a design center, start designing something, Qualcomm. So I think this is how it helps. So I think in all our agreements, we are encouraging that there's some design, some verification, some assembly, some test happens here, so that there is a local transfer of knowledge. So in this conference, what we are saying is that Saudi Arabia is doing its own, Abu Dhabi is doing its own, Oman is doing its own. So we could end up in a situation that there are 5x same things being done and 0x some other thing being done, because there is no coordination. So my pitch to all the folks here in this conference was, let's form sort of this regional collaboration council, and all it does is, let's meet once a quarter. What are you doing? Okay, my favorite example. We are going to do a silicon carbide fab. Great. What are you doing? I'm doing another silicon fab. What are you doing? And who's doing OSAT? Nobody's doing OSAT. For OSAT, we have to go back to China.
Yeah.
So, third, what about who's going to design all these silicon carbide chips? Who's going to test all these chips? So, I think the opportunity is that rather than each country trying to build a story on silicon carbide, somebody can do design, somebody can do wafers, somebody can do package and test,
Yeah.
and somebody can do assembly, because in the end, you know, you have to make some modules which go in some real, you know, AVs or, you know, chargers and things like that. So this is what I think we are trying to avoid duplication. Secondly, I think we have a human resource issue, that there are some countries in which there is a lot of human resource and other countries that doesn't have human resource, or it will take time to get human resource. So I think we can solve our short-term problem by training people in Jordan, but deploy them in Saudi Arabia, or get some people from Egypt, or and so on and so forth. So I think that's area. And lastly, there are some countries which have more money, but they don't know or don't have a semiconductor plan. We can help them write one, right? So I think these are the reasons why we think a coordinated joint effort by the countries in this region has a higher chance of successfully setting up an ecosystem, rather than each country trying it individually or competing with each other. It's not something we can compete on. It's just the mission is too big for us.
And I mean, when you think about it, there's a huge amount of funds available here. So yeah, it's like making 100 plus 100 equal 300, as opposed to 100 plus 100 equals 150.
Yeah, and I think that's, I 100% agree with you. And I think the other issue is that in order to set up an ecosystem, you need 4 or 5 different types of people. And getting them all sitting on the table is very difficult. There are academicians who have to train people. There are entrepreneurs who start companies. Then we have financing people. Then we have government bureaucrats. All of them have to work together. And I think in some country you can have more academicians. In some countries you can have more entrepreneurs. But if all countries work together, I think we can have a good mix and balance. And hopefully we can build a more collaborative, balanced ecosystem between these 6, 7, 8 countries, rather than everybody trying on its own and ending up with duplication or ending up with gaps. So that's generically the whole idea of this conference.
And I think it's probably unfair for me to ask you, but you've only just pitched the idea, but I guess, are you seeing a bit of an appetite for this?
Yes, absolutely. I've already been contacted by folks in Qatar, in Oman as well, and the idea really is that Egypt as well, Pakistan. So I think all of them are basically saying, let's coordinate our efforts. Let's make sure that if we train somebody, like, I mean, let's say we train 100 people in Jordan, but there is no company in Jordan. So why should we train those people, and why is it fair for somebody to spend 9 months of their life getting training when there is no job at the end of the tunnel here? On the other hand, if we can talk to them, guys, we need 100 good analog designers. Can you provide us? They can say, yeah, okay, how about in 9 months? Okay. Then we go work with the companies who somebody needs 25, somebody needs 50, somebody needs something else. Then we say, okay, we have the demand. So the students, the people who are getting trained are looking towards that demand. May not be in Jordan. Some may be in Egypt, some may be in Saudi Arabia, some may be in Oman. But then if we know they are training analog designers and we let everybody know 9 months in advance, there is a plan. They say, okay, how about in analog, but I need a little bit people who are in BCD. Okay. So I think then we can tailor it. So I think coordination should only help.
Okay. Let's, we could talk forever on this, but I think the other thing is when we talk about pathways to collaboration, what are you seeing as the key? You talked about technologies like silicon carbide and I guess the AI, data center infrastructure, but everything else feeding into that. What are the areas that you're seeing initial real growth and interest in terms of ideas and investment, but also at the same time, what do you see the biggest potential in the region?
I think everybody here is convinced that AI is the next thing to do, and they have internally decided that they are going to transform their economies and have a huge reliance on AI. Unlike United States, it's a huge country, very difficult to make decisions like that. These are relatively smaller economies, and as a result, such decisions can be made and can be implemented. So as a result, what they are looking at is that they will be buying a lot of semiconductor solutions, software to make it happen. And they also want to have some sovereignty and localization. So that is the opportunity, I think. So I think the first opportunity is probably in cloud solutions, something related to data center, but then I think they want on factory automation, smart homes, smart cities. So going more towards physical AI, maybe some IoT, maybe as well as edge applications. So I think those are the areas where I see that we can welcome startups, connect them to current customers who will buy these solutions from them. And if you look at these countries, they are trying actually very desperately to make it happen. I don't see that kind of desperation in US. I see some desperation in China. In US, people are still not desperately trying to adopt AI. They're still a little bit relaxed. They're saying, yeah, change will happen, but change will not happen as fast. But I think here I see the desperation. I think we can lock into that.
When you say desperation, I mean, I watched an interview that Jensen Huang did with a very popular US podcast host, Joe Rogan. And I think it's interesting how he talks about, he's a real advocate for that desperation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say desperation, but that passion to put physical AI in everything.
That's right.
And I guess you need somebody here in the region to be advocating that. Is that you?
So I had taken on a role that lots of people are interested in buying chips. I want my role to be build chips. So the reason I'm passionate about that is because let's say we spend $100 billion in building a data center or data centers.
Yes.
What happens after 3 years? What happens after 4 years? So semiconductors are consumables, meaning they get consumed like a phone. Every 2 years you have to buy a new one. So you must be able to extract enough value out of the phone in 2 years that you can afford a new one, right? If the ROI cycle of your phone is 10 years, what will you do after 2 years, right?
Exactly.
So I think the data centers have the same issue. As long as companies like NVIDIA and others have 60, 70, 80% margins, we are buying these very expensive chips. The question is what happens after 3 years? Well, you have to buy another $100 billion.
And they've got a yearly cadence of new products as well. So
that's right.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So the way out of that is some 5, 10, 15% you start making. So you start making a dent into that. And secondly, if you are going to make this your lifestyle, this is your life, you have to do a big part of that design and manufacturing. You cannot build an economy in which you own nothing. You're just buying, using, then buying again and using. You cannot do that. So you have to get very passionate about making, designing.
Yeah.
That is I'm Mr. Design and Mr.
Okay.
Make as opposed to Mr. Buy.
Last question. You've spent most of your career in the US with various companies that we can name, but what brought you here and what excites you here? What makes you sort of get out of bed every day?
I think in my life, I have been a very big believer, what I call of democracy of silicon. And what it means is that the silicon and the silicon technology doesn't belong to one country or one region, it belongs to humanity. And I very strongly believe that that's one technology that we need to lift up the global south. Without that technology, if we deny that technology, Africa will recess more, the South India will recess more, as opposed to if we make that technology accessible. Imagine for a moment, everybody in Africa has access to a smartphone. For a moment, if that is true, you will do a long way to uplift them. Now imagine every child has a laptop. Imagine every business has a digital solution for the underlying all of that is semiconductors. So our goal should be to make the semiconductor technology accessible. I don't care about the rich people. Rich people will take care of themselves. I think we should worry about the poor people. Poor people need digital technologies underlined by the semiconductor technologies to uplift them. I saw an opportunity in Saudi Arabia that they are willing to build an ecosystem and supply it to to global south, but more importantly, they hope to become the supplier to Africa. As continent, I have great hopes we can uplift people, and I think semiconductors are going to play a very big role in that uplift. And if I can play a 0.001% role in that one, I will die a happy person.
Well, Naveed Sherwani, thank you very much.
My pleasure.